finally got a nice day. We had one yesterday too. It's going to be about 25 degrees. So it looks really nice. Compared to the rubbish we've had in the last few weeks, it's quite a nice change. Other good news is that a couple of my seeds have started to germinate. The ones for the sugar peas, and I think the snow peas might be as well. They're larger seeds, so I guess they mightn't take as long to germinate. But yeah, it looks like I've got quite a decent success rate there. They're in pots and they look pretty. They've definitely sprouted. The tomato seeds are much smaller and they're taking much longer to germinate. I've got a couple of reasonable tomato plants, but they don't seem to be flowering, even though I'm giving them the Yates fertilizer specifically formulated for flowering plants. So maybe it's just not warm enough for them yet. I think they'll bear fruit, but I haven't had much luck with tomatoes so far. I guess the only way I can really cover that is just by planting so many of the damn things that I'll get a decent crop. But the only one I've really had success with is the green peppers. I've done well with them, and there's a stack of them growing. The question is, how big are they going to grow? That's really the bottom line when it comes to them. And maybe the bush is too big to produce really good fruit because it's grown over 2 years. I think they're annuals in certain climates, but it's a perennial up here, and it may be worse at bearing fruit the bigger it gets. I don't know, but there's plenty of flowers on it, and there's plenty of small capsicums growing, but they're only less than thumbnail size at the moment, so they've got a ways to go before I'd harvest them, even for pizza topping. So give them a few more weeks and they might be reasonable. Once the colour turns, that's when I harvest them, because they're not going to last much longer then. Once there's a bit of red or yellow comes in, well, that's it. No dogs today, interesting. It's very quiet up here. I've got to go all the way to Cairns Central again, which I never really look forward to, but that's okay, I've got to get it done. It does get me out of the house, and that's what I could do with that. I can get pretty lazy, and I think it's good to force me out sometimes, but I've got to do some socialising next week. So yeah, I've been way too housebound. The Arm Cove bus that got me back close to home, but not close enough. It's been a total stuff up today. It's been a weird day all round, and this is the culmination of it. There's been industrial action with the buses. They're packed out at the moment because I was waiting for about half an hour for a bus at Smithfield. Normally you'd get one every 10 minutes. Something was definitely wrong. We couldn't see any buses coming from the other side, and there was quite a few people waiting there. I've never seen it so packed at that stop. And the other complication is that I was under the assumption it was free travel all day because I got in, I wasn't charged going in. But when I came back, I got a trip to Smithfield. He didn't charge me because I asked him if they're charging fares now, and he said no, he just wanted to know where I was going. But then when I got to the bus stop, a woman next to me told me that she'd been charged for the latest bus trip that she just took. So talk about totally confusing the public. On one hand, you sort of think it's in the past. If it's been a free travel for say one trip during the day, then it would be continuing on for the rest of the day, but not today. I had to pay $1.50 to get back here, and so I don't know what's going on, whether they had a stop work meeting or something and that's why there wasn't any buses. They don't tell the passengers anything. We're the last people to know. And by sometimes charging, other times not, you just totally confuse people too. I think as a passenger I'd like a bit more consistency. So I think it's a bit of a PR disaster for the bus drivers today. What's happened? They need to communicate what's going on. The bus company's pretty poor at it too, so we're the meat in the sandwich, of course. What's new? So now I've got a half-hour walk home. I've got to try to somehow navigate across the busy Cook Highway, which seems to be really chockers with traffic today. It's Wednesday in Kawara Beach. Another beautiful day, top temperature 25 degrees. Not a cloud in the sky. Amazing. Just walking up the Crescent towards Cottesloe Road, where the pathology place is. So got to be a human pincushion again today. Just reflecting on a very interesting start to the week. Monday didn't go exactly the way I predicted. For a start, I got on the bus and the bus driver didn't take my fare. Usually cost me around $5 to get daily down to Cairns Central, and he just waved me off with no explanation, which is typical. So I had no idea why he wasn't collecting the fares. I assumed that that would be the policy for the whole day, and I assumed incorrectly, because every other time that's how it worked. So then I get to the hospital, and before I just had to go through usual stuff, you know, checking my blood pressure and temperature and that type of thing, and also weighed myself. And I went, the nurse asked me how much I weighed, and I said 12 kilos. I don't know why I said that. That's absurd. It's only 70 kilos off the actual figure, and I just had a total brain wobble on it. For some reason, it just didn't read. Just to me how absurd that figure was. I don't know where I got it from, because I did actually weigh myself, and I'm sure it did say 82.6 kilos, which is what my weight is. So for some reason, I just lopped off 70 kilos. So that made me feel like a total punce. And then going home from the hospital, I went to go and do some shopping in Smithfield. And I got on the bus, and again expecting just to walk past the driver, because they weren't collecting fares, presumably. Some sort of industrial action, I presumed. Again, no information. This time he called me back, and I said, so I told him I thought you weren't collecting fares, and he didn't collect the fare off me, but he wanted to know where I was going. So I said I'm going to Smithfield, so that was fine. So a little confusing, but it was okay. And so then I get to do my shopping at Smithfield, and trying to get a bus back, either the 110 or the 111. The 111 is the one that takes me directly home, well, to my door, in effect, almost, compared to the 110, which drops you off at the Cook Highway, so leaves me with a half-hour walk. So I go to the bus shelter, and there's a whole lot of people waiting there. Very unusual. It usually isn't that crowded. A lot of times it's been there, and I've been the only person. This is during the week. So that was a bit strange. And we just kept waiting and waiting and waiting for a bus, and no buses came. And then this woman next to me, she started talking constantly about her weird neighbour. She lives in Trinity Beach, and this weird neighbour who's elderly and insists on feeding her, and yet she reckons her house is overrun by cockroaches, so she wasn't too keen on actually eating food made by this person. And it was a bit hard for me to hear her, because the bus shelter's right on the main road, and so all the traffic noise made me it's one of the worst places to have a conversation, because of the ambient sound from the highway. But anyway, she just kept talking and talking and talking. I couldn't believe it. She started talking to another lady, and I wandered off because I wanted to see how much it would cost to get an Uber, because it had been like quarter of an hour to 20 minutes, and there hadn't been any buses going either way. And that was the worry. So Finally we did see a bus go the other direction, so that was good. But I checked up the Uber. It would have cost me about 18 bucks to get a car back home, so at least I knew what I was up for. And so I still waited around a little longer. Thank God I did, because I did actually get the bus did turn up, a 110, and we saw one of the ones going the other direction, so we assumed that the buses were still running. But again, none of us knew what was going on. There's just no information, and that's one of the worst things. None of the drivers bothered communicating with us. So a 110 turns up, and I figure, look, I better just take it, because I don't know what's happening with the other buses. And if I got the 111, it could be just absolutely packed with school kids, especially considering there's been such an interruption to services. I wonder whether there'd been a stop work meeting, but again, we got no information, had no idea what's going on. And there's also nothing in the local media about it, which is a bit strange. You think up here it'd be a bit more parochial and they'd mention something like that, but nothing. So I still have no idea what happened on Monday. But so I get on the bus. The bus was absolutely packed, so it would indicate that there were definitely missing buses. A lot of people got off, and it took a long time for them to get out because there's only one door on most of these buses in the front, so you have to wait for everybody to disembark before you can get on the bus. So eventually I did. And the woman who kept talking to me constantly, she told me she'd actually paid for a bus fare, the latest one. I thought that was strange, because I didn't pay to get to Smithfield, and I assumed it was no pay all day, but it wasn't. The woman driving the bus, the 110, she wanted $1.50 off me. I mean, it's bugger all, but I had to pay. So total inconsistency with what's going on. And, you know, if you plan around a trip on the bus, you need to know where you stand as far as the money situation is concerned. Because if you don't have the cash on you, you'd be stuffed. It wasn't an issue for me, but it could be an issue for people. And it's just that, again, they need to communicate with the passengers more. Anyway, I got my shopping done. I got back and I had to do the half-hour walk back home, so I was pretty buggered. Didn't get home till about 4:30 in the afternoon, so it was quite late. And then I had to get my dinner organised and do other crap, so quite a weird day. And yesterday was normal, relatively normal. Although I got a grocery delivery and that was late, that's unusual. And they actually delivered to one of my neighbours just a few doors down. That's never happened before, so I guess it's quite a popular service, having groceries delivered around here. And I'm walking up to the shops rather than riding the bike, because even though I'm not feeling terrible with the meds, I don't think I've got the energy to ride the bike, even though it's only a short trip. So they are having an effect, although I don't think I've got hay fever now, so that's good. Finally got over that. So anyway, at least it's a nice day. At least some of my plants are grown, which is good. I hope I can actually propagate some more ginger, because I made up another batch of Indian curry last night using fresh ginger, and I had to do it because I cooked the chicken about 5 days ago, and if I hadn't actually made it into curry yesterday and put it in the freezer, chances are it might have gone off. So I'll keep once I've cooked something like meat and put it in the fridge, I'll give it about 1 week. That usually would last at least that long. But after that, I think you're dicing with fate. So I've now got a whole lot of chicken curry portions, probably about half a dozen to 7 portions of it in the freezer, and plus another portion that I'll eat tonight, which is still in the bowl. But quite nicely, the difference between the one I've had, a batch I made this time, is that I didn't add tomato paste there was a little bit of a blotch on the lip of the tomato paste bottle which I'd used before, and I wasn't sure whether it was mould, so again I'd rather play safe. And the actual recipe doesn't ask for tomato paste, that's an addition I've made. But we'll see how it goes tonight, because with just canned tomatoes rather than canned tomatoes with the paste, which I guess enhances the flavour. But we'll see what it tastes like tonight. So, and the delivery with Coles delivery, I did the first time I've done it without substitutions, and there was only one thing I missed out on, and that was the dates. And with the dates, they normally do a decent substitution. They usually substitute the generic Coles dates with the Trident dates and the same size, so you don't miss out on quantity. And the quality of the dates is exactly the same. I don't have a problem with the Coles ones at all, but I probably should have put that down as an alternative substitution. So I might actually do it a bit more nuanced and allow certain items to be substituted like that. But you have to be very selective on it, because I find the people doing the substitutions can really make some rather illogical choices. And the worst one was when they chose those Snickers bars. It's just horrible. The new version of Snickers, nothing like the original, which I really liked. So that basically put me off substitutions. I've had a few issues with it. That was sort of broke the camel's back, as it were. So I'd rather just get what I've ordered and not leave it up to a third party to decide what is equivalent. I mean, sometimes that can work in your favour, but it's a bit of a hassle overall. But as you can see, I had to do it twice. I tried first on my right arm, and then had to do the left arm because I couldn't get the blood out. It does happen. I've got fairly tough veins to tap, unfortunately. And I frightened the woman doing the pathology. She was just sitting, she had the door open, because it's like a really small pathology place. And I just sort of said hi, and she jumped. She didn't expect someone, because that's how quiet it is around here. So, and she also wasn't aware that the public could turn up to the shack on the beach. So she now knows that she can check that out, but I told her to be very careful ordering drinks. I told her how expensive the wine was, and she agreed with me, thought it was a total rip-off. So it's a shame, but it's certainly worth checking out. It's a lovely spot. So anyway, I'm glad that's done. Now I'm walking home. I'll have a nice cold drink when I get home. I feel a bit dehydrated. The coffee. But I'll be okay. Whew. Anyway. No rain, which is good. It hasn't rained for over a week now. And there was an apocryphal type of report in the Daily Mail only a day or so ago, basically predicting doom and gloom weather-wise again, saying that we're going to freeze our asses off, not here, but down south and in New South. But they showed a map with all the cold air, and it went as far as Cairns. We didn't get the deep blue, but we got a sort of right on the edge, so it looked as though we were going to get some inclement weather too. But it hasn't happened. It's been beautiful weather. That's not to say people in Victoria aren't freezing their asses off right now, but it's typical that they come up with these really scary headlines, typical media, and there was nothing about it the next day. So it showed sort of, I think they overplayed their hand on that one, just chasing a headline. And I think they need to be more responsible, because it can scare the crap out of people. So luckily it doesn't look as though it's as severe as they predicted. So and I mean, let's face it, the forecaster who predicts something catastrophic might be trying to make a name for themselves, a bit like what's happened with COVID, with the doom and gloomsters when it first came out, the doctor in UK who predicted millions would die, just ridiculous stuff, and it made a name for him. But he's got egg on his face because he's just basically overplayed his hand, and there's a lot of that happening. He wasn't the only one who was responsible for that, by the way. There's a lot of people who basically came up with some pretty outrageous claims about what would happen with the virus, and they're still trying to whip up more hysteria now. It just never ends. But I said there was something in the paper today. The media, this is the Daily Mail again, and they seem to have changed their tone, and now they've actually had they had an article today saying that Australians need to get back to work, and some of this stuff, this overreaction to the virus strains, is causing people to virtually be in permanent quarantine, because the quarantine time is like 2 weeks, and so once they get out of quarantine they may get reinfected, and it just keeps rolling on. And whereas the press prior to that were sort of in unison, they were basically pushing the line of caution when it comes to the virus, and lockdowns and everything were fine. Basically the world had to stop because this is almost the end of the world. The tone has totally changed. So that's interesting that the media can sort of do that. I don't trust them because they run agendas. That's how I feel about them anyway. As you can see, it's a glorious day. Absolutely beautiful. This is the shortcut through to the creek that runs nearby where I stay. I mean, I could in theory walk down there, but I wouldn't want to do it until they've actually built proper pathways. If they do that, it would be great. It's on the left there, because we'll wander along, follow the creek. There's actually access to a shortcut down to the crescent where I'm near. So, but again, if you're stiff, you might run into, well, to be unlikely to get snakes at this time of year. I've never seen a snake around here. More likely to see a wallaby, apparently, because the wallaby kill sign I walked past yesterday, this Monday, I walked past Monday, there's actually a sign warning people of wallabies in the area and trying not to kill them. And I think there was actually the remains of a wallaby right next to the sign on the ground. It looked like, I was going to take a photo of it, I probably should have, but I've never seen that anywhere else around here. But they probably only come out around dusk and dawn times, I think, mainly. Yeah, that was a bit strange. It's a very strange day on Monday. Please consider subscribing to my channel if you think there's anything there of use to you, or entertainment or whatever. And either do that or give me a thumbs up, or if you're feeling really energetic, do both. That'd be great.